Well, Bill, we're here for our annual review. Would you ever think it's 10 years since we first met, and it is 10 years since we had our very successful relationship?
That's right, 10 years.
10 years since you rang our office and I wasn't there. So you had a number of concerns back then of your old system. It wasn't future-proofed, it was cumbersome, and I suppose it's no harm for we to, I suppose, go over what we kind of, some of the problems you had at that time as such.
Well, the system we had originally was DOS. And if you're familiar with DOS really doesn't allow you to do anything. Whereas we were looking to move into the modern technology, if you want to call it that, and to be able to extract information, use information, copy information, and all that kind of thing. The big problem we had with the other thing was it was just set. There was just no way, you couldn't change anything, you couldn't look back even on history, couldn't draw down your nominal ledgers for previous years or anything like that. It wouldn't even do profit and losses. It was just antiquated, is the only word I could describe it as. So we sat down here and we decided we have to do something. We want to move on to, newer stuff, better stuff, like the company was expanding at the time. So the word went out, go and see what you can do. And I contacted you. I contacted 2 other companies, to be honest with you, and we had 3 demos. I suppose we felt yours was the best. That's as simple as that. We felt it was the one that would work best for us, and we were certainly happy. We made the decision to go with you. I suppose there was a lot of concerns at the time. How are we going to move from one to the other? And there was a great fear within the company and within all staff. But I think what we did at the time was all staff bought into the issue and said, yes, we're going to do this.
I remember that very clearly.
And we're going to do this. The demos that you did, I suppose, sold it more so than any, and I think you did it more than one.
Oh, we did. I remember them all. in that, I remember the first time I came down here exactly, because I was even discussing with someone the other day, because at the time we had a few quarries done. We wouldn't have over 100 like we have today. But I remember I came down, and in those days, we didn't do a needs analysis like we do today. We go into a company and I'm going to spend 2 hours analysing what they wanted from that. Back then we thought we knew it all. Did a demonstration with yourself, because I hadn't planned that you had 200 questions there waiting for me. And I do remembering that I admit I sweated during that demo. But one thing I gained from the demo, I gained an awful lot of knowledge how McGrath's worked. And if you remember yourself, Bill, we came back a few weeks later and we did a pretty in-depth workshop demo for the whole day, even though we didn't get any sleep the night before, because you directed us to a local establishment where there was a party all night. But we still got through it, and we still had a situation where I remember we did a full day's demo, and what I liked about it is it wasn't just management, you brought in all staff. So there was a buy-in from staff day one into the changes we were going to make. If I can remember, you had a number of concerns at the time, and just maybe to reiterate those concerns was credit control was a big thing for you at the time. You wanted it at the weighbridge when it happened. You want to elaborate on that, why that was so important to you?
Well, obviously, we're talking now about 2008. So 2008 was the crash, and McGrath suffered like every other construction company suffered at the time, right? Big issue we had was that material was going through the weighbridge, and we had no control. We had no control over the credit limits or terms on the actual account. So the lads just kept doing dockets and kept sending out stuff, and there was no warnings being flashed or no controls in place to stop it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the major selling points, that you were able to put it on the order first, and then you were able to put it on the tickets and the deliveries, so that they couldn't, you can't send out stuff to somebody now that has gone over their credit limits.
Exactly.
And it will build up fast, because some of our products are high value in the line of macadam and concrete. You could run into thousands in a very, very short time.
And I see there as well was that you use the CTI module, and the CTI module gives you that bit of information before you pick up the actual phone or who it is, what credit they owe.
Just talking about that CTI, like, okay, it highlights who's on the phone and it tells you the number that's ringing. But I see the dispatch lads now that when somebody rings, they're able to identify that's a customer, he's going to order. So they can actually open up the sales order directly from the CTI by just clicking on the button, and it goes straight into the sales order. So they only have to enter the product.
Which is a big time saving.
Well, it's a huge time saving, like. And he can do it actually on the phone, and he can do the order there straight away.
Subcontract haulage is a bone of contention for every, and actually, I'd have to say at the time we were going one way and you'd directed us another way, and that has been quite successful for us as well. That the whole idea of how the subcontract haulage kind of works today, I'd have to give you credit for a lot of that, Bill, you know.
Well, where the subcontract haulage comes from, Sean, simply is that, like, I think we could have 50 hauliers. Now, we wouldn't be using them all at the one time. But at the end of last month there, I had about 15 hauliers that bills that I had to make up a count of what work they had done that month. Now, it came from 2 points. First of all, he would have had to enter each one manually on his bill and start doing that. Then I would have to go and check that. Whereas now I can send him out his report, and if he sends it back the same as I sent it out, or if there's adjustments, that's the only thing I need to check. I don't have to go down load by load for every day. And you could be talking 100 loads on one haulier.
So is that something you'd have to do before, is it?
Well, you'd have to do before you pass the account for payment. So now it has just cut out all that, and it has streamlined the billing process between the haulier, for the haulier and Farmer Grass, because I can just check the bill in a minute, less than a minute, by just looking back and seeing what was on the report. And if he has changes, and there will obviously be an odd change, I only ask him to highlight the change. I don't need to know anymore, because I'm happy enough that our system is working and that the rates are correct. Like, I would throw an eye over the bill when it would go out every month just to make sure, like. But I mean, it has saved a huge amount of time both for the haulier and for McGrath.
The other thing I remember at the time, I suppose, and it's becoming more relevant even today, I've noticed, this whole idea of having everything you want on one system.
Well, the very first time I went up to Wicklow, and not many go to Wicklow, I think, anymore. They all go to Dublin. But I went to Wicklow, and we went for the 2-day training the very first time to start up. And I remember Michael coming in, and we were having a discussion, just Michael and I, and he said, like, this isn't an accounts package now. He says this is a management tool that, that you can, there's much more to it than just adding up a couple of figures. It'll do the whole lot, like, treat it as a management system, he said, don't treat it as an accounts package. And, that stuck with me in the 10 years, that there's much more to it than just doing sales and invoices and stuff like that. Like, there's a whole raft of tickets and orders and information that's there to you, and much more information in the products, much more information in the profit and losses and all that, and to use all that.
I was just thinking, because 10 years is a long time. It went very quickly in many years, in many ways. And I was just thinking that you even got the batch and plant interoperability going fairly quickly. Some people kick the can of that for 4 or 5 months, because as we all know, a batch and plant can operate on its own. But tell me a little bit more, like, how you find that, because I never asked you the question till now. The whole idea of having the system and the interoperability with PIL, what does that do for you?
Well, like, obviously the concrete plant and its computer system is completely, it's not your system as such, it's PIL. That's neutral Ireland from Northern Ireland, like, and they supply a lot of plants in Ireland in general, like. But simply, when we do the delivery docket now for the concrete, it will move the information from that straight over onto the batching plant. So again, it was a double entry. Like, you had to go from one computer to another to type in, that you wanted 6 meters of a certain type of mix, and you really had to put the name as well, because you had to create the traceability with the on the system for the batching plant. Whereas now it will just take all the information on the click of a button and push it onto the plant. And if you're happy enough, you can click the plant and start it then. all you have to click is start loading. That's it, you're finished.
There's a time saving there then as well.
Oh, huge time saving if you're busy.
And I kind of think as well, you see, that in that first year, you actually got all those elements together, which led you in 2010 to come back. I remember it clearly. You wanted to improve again, which was quite quickly for companies. Only in a year, now you wanted to move forward. Now, your business process slightly changed in 2010 in that you came to me and you said, look, I want to do something with a self-service type of... How did that come about, Bill?
Well, sure, self-service, I'll tell you where it came about. We started exporting, and we started exporting to a port in Scotland, and we wanted live information of the material leaving the port to the customer. In other words, we wanted to see the ticket the day it was done, and we wanted to have control again on the credit with the sales orders. We had to create the sales orders. So you came to me then with the kiosk, and the kiosk basically allows them in Scotland to do the delivery docket on the click of a button. So what we did was we installed it over there and we linked it back here to Kong. Now there's always issues with the broadband, but we have that mastered now at this stage.
Yeah.
But we can now actually see live the docket as soon as it's done, as soon as it's delivered. And the other thing is it gives us the live information here, and we have control as well, because on the kiosk will only allow you to do whatever order is created, and we're creating the order. So they can't just go and do anything they want themselves. They has to come through our system here to say this is what's available to you, and this is what you can deliver, and this is what you can draw down.
All right. Very good.
Since that, and in the last 2 years, we've now installed a kiosk in our New Brook quarry, which is a small quarry we have down near Clamaris, and that works fully automated there, particularly for our own drivers, so that the driver just swipes his card, and again it shows him what orders are available to him, and it'll print out his ticket all automated on about 5 clicks of a screen, and it's a touch screen. So all he has to do is touch the screen five times, and it prints the docket. And
that information is live here for
and
you.
that's live back here. And since that, now we've actually installed one here in Kong. So
very good.
if we have, particularly for materials coming in, sand, chips and stuff like that, the lads they don't have to come into the office. And for big orders as well, or for all orders now that we can put through it in the line of weight, the driver doesn't have to actually come into the office here to the dispatch at all anymore. He can actually weigh himself out, and it'll print the ticket for him on the weighbridge. And on that as well, I have now set up that I can actually see the kiosk on my computer in here, so I can keep an eye on what's actually happening, or if there's a problem on the kiosk. And I know, or if he says I have a problem, I can see it live as he sees it, and I can say you're doing that wrong.
Major changes then around 2013, or where you I think it was 13, where you were getting a whole new business altogether, and I remember you were concerned, could we handle this issue without knowing our expertise in the food industry? So I'll say no more, and I'll let you continue with it a little bit, because
but sure, like after that then we went from to supplying animal feed companies, and animal feed eventually ends up in the food chain. So anybody that deals with the food chain now knows that traceability is now the all key issue. You've got to be able to trace back exactly where your material came from to supply the food chain. That's all to do with if there's a problem down the road, as there was with the pig issue there a couple of years ago, where they put in oil by mistake and they weren't able to trace back exactly. So the traceability is all and everything now with the food industry, and we are now FEMAS approved, and FEMAS will ensure that they are able to trace back exactly where the material came from in case there would be a problem or anything down the road. So the food industry is a completely different thing to the stone industry.
Oh, it is. It's a very different industry. There's a lot more administration, a lot more risk. But
absolutely.
I suppose it's because as a company and with a modular solution, we happen to have and have an expertise in the food industry, which was a great benefit to you. And as you expand that industry, have an expertise we can bring to the table to you from the point of view we have numerous food related modules in the system. And since our system is like a plug and play, I often say it is like a box of Lego. You get what you want, and you, as the years go by, you add on modules as and when you require them. And the same and if you expand more into that industry, there's other stuff down the line we can do as well.
But this traceability issue as well is now come into our ISO quality standards, in that we now have to trace back the block to the day they were made and the batches. So we're now able to incorporate that into the docket. So we can know, as soon as the docket is done, we know what batch it came out of, what day it was made. Do you know what I mean? So there's traceability there always. And there's also traceability in the concrete and everything. So you're tracing back from the day you do your order to your delivery docket. It links on to the pill plant, and you can trace the load of concrete. Cycle. Exactly. It's all about tracing it from the very start to the very finish. The traceability is huge, like with the quality management system as well.
Summarise, I suppose we've been able to grow together a bit. You know what I mean? That's what I've been able to kind of see that in that. So look, I want to thank you for your business officially, and sure, thanks for. Okay. Let's hope we'll see each other
next 10 years.
Takes 10 years.
Next 10 years.